Well, good evening, everybody. You are listening to the Trifecta, where UFOs, Paranormal, and Cryptids collide, the official podcast of Rocky Mountain Ranch Research. I'm so excited for tonight. It's been a few years since I've gotten to catch up with my friend James Keenan, and so I'm looking forward to having a wonderful conversation about these areas of high strangeness with James tonight. I would like to thank you all for being here, and I hope that your week has been filled with more wonder than worry so far this year. And I hope that you are able to see some of these unbelievable northern lights that, like last night and tonight out here where I am behind Pikes Peak in Colorado, you can actually see them with your naked eye, which is like the first time ever. So I hope that you all are able to enjoy that. If not, there's a lot of pictures out there on social media that you can look at too from people who are experiencing this. I think from our big solar blasts, we're getting hit by energy like never before. So anyway, a couple reminders before we bring James on in here. If you have questions for James, please write them in all upper caps so we can that they're questions. And I'd also like to encourage you guys to check out Rocky Mountain Ranch Research Patreon at Patreon RMRR. That really helps support what we do here on the channel, as well as our store on RockyMountainRanchResearch.org. I just updated and got some new products in there, so it's a lot of fun just in time for Christmas. But without further ado, let's go ahead and bring James on in the studio. How you doing, James?
Katie, doing well. How are you?
I'm well. It's been a while since we have been able to catch up, probably
Sure
2-3 years even, since the whole Blind Frog Ranch. And I kind of just want to just jump right in. And before there was Blind Frog Ranch and all the work that you've done with History Channel, and that, I think it's History Channel or Discovery.
Discovery Channel.
With Discovery Channel, there was a James Keenan in the work you did before that, and what kind of got you interested in phenomena, and then we're just going to go from there. So if you kind of just want to tell our listeners how you got started in all of these topics in the first place.
Yeah, sure. So when I was really young, I guess I had some run-ins with the paranormal, with shadow figures, which, when you're young, scare the hell out of you. But as you get older, you get interested in what was taking place. And I later in life became a police officer and had a really interesting experience while on duty, which just, freaked out my partner, kind of got me interested in trying to figure out explanations for what I saw occurring. Also got into anthropology and archaeology because I'm really interested in the supernatural and religious belief systems of past cultures and civilizations, because I think their supernatural and their religious beliefs, their medicine man groups that they created now currently is all the paranormal that we're seeing. Probably same locations in the past, just an upgrade now. So I decided to write some fictional books. I wrote 8 books that really have a lot of my personal life experiences that I've melted into the pages and into the characters. It was just kind of a way of getting around, when you're in law enforcement, if you talk about stuff like that, you won't be law enforcement the next day. So,
all right. Let's talk about that a little bit, because you really got me intrigued with your encounter while you were on duty as a police officer. Now, was that in the state of Arizona that you were a police officer?
No, that occurred in El Paso, Texas, back in the mid 1990s, in 1994. So
okay, all right. And so this book in particular, I would love to hear about this experience that you had that kind of shook you. And is that part of this book as well, or is that separate things?
So the one as a police officer I put into my original book, which was Dark Shadows and Catastrophe.
Okay, that is right. Yeah.
Right. So what occurred, my partner and I were called to a domestic violence call, and he had been to that house quite a few times. So I guess the issues had been ongoing for at least a year or two. And when we went into the house, he gathered the family in the living room downstairs, and I was kind of hanging out at the front door because the staircase was right there to the left going up. And while he was talking to the family, I was kind of, making sure there's nobody else that's going to come down, surprise us. And in the course of him talking to the family, somebody upstairs started telling us to F off and get the hell out of the house. So,
no.
Yeah, my partner looked at the husband and he was like, I told you I wanted everybody down here in the living room. The husband tells my partner, everybody is down here. And at that moment, I heard several people start yelling down at us. And it was a lot of cursing, foul language, a lot of angry individuals. So I started going up the stairs. It was pretty dark, had my flashlight out. I remember this was 1994. So not as high tech as they are today. And when I got up to the top of the stairs, there was just a crowd of individuals yelling and screaming at me. And as I walked onto the last step and there was a hallway leading down where the rooms and the bathrooms are off of. And I don't know if you remember, but like in the 70s and 80s, they like to put that faux wood in the hallways. And
Right.
as I was walking down, it was so loud I could barely think. My partner was already starting to call for backup because he thought I was having issues with people upstairs. But what it was the walls had what looked like faces come to life where the wood was, and they were cursing and cussing. And
through the walls?
In the walls, they'd almost taken the form of like the wood. And I told my partner, don't call for backup, but it was too late. I told him, get up here. And by the time he got up there, he was like, and saw what was going on, he was totally freaked out. I was trying to figure out if they were, had some type of projection system or something. But, the more we looked at it, there was no real explanation for it. You could hear the other officers responding code 3 because my partner had cleared the air for emergency traffic. He thought I was upstairs fighting with individuals. And they got there. The moment they crossed the threshold into the house, everything just stopped. And the walls were just the faux wood again. And so he immediately grabbed me and he just said, shut the hell up about it. Just say it was the TV up here. And he called everybody off code 4. And then, we got to talking to the family, and I guess they were having a lot of these unexplainable issues. And I mean, the more you look back and think about it, it just seemed like there was a lot of bad energy there. And I think things were being invited into the home that, I can't explain it any other way. If it wasn't something unexplainable, they did a hell of a job fooling us, because 94, there was nothing. I don't think there was technology like that could have caused, like 3-dimensional images outside of like a hologram section or a projection screen. So I incorporated that into the book with the main character.
Wow. So do you think whatever was going on in that house had impact, negative effects on the people? Like, were you on a domestic call, or did they call you because they were tired of these ghosts? Or, I mean, why was the call made to the police in the first place?
Yeah, it was domestic violence call again. It was a constant thing at this home. They, were constantly fighting. They'd never been arrested. I don't think there was any physical violence, but the neighbors it was so loud, the neighbors would always be calling. So I think it was the energy that was being created. I could totally be wrong. It could have had something to do with location. Who knows? But after that, my partner kind of told him, I don't ever want to come back to this place again. He didn't want to ever speak about it to me, or we didn't even do a report on it. It was just an information only, turned in, but we never got called back to that location. So I don't know if anything else continued afterward.
Right, because your partner probably didn't even know about the hitchhiker phenomenon at that point. But I would imagine that you both had to be worried about whatever negative energies in that house attaching to you, or your partner, or So, I mean, holy cow! If I saw Wizardly, hi Wizardly, thanks for being here, but I'm with you. I would have bolted out of there. I would have taken off and run. I didn't even begin to process what you're seeing. I mean, sounds like you did the logical thing, looking for cameras and things like that. But holy smokes, I can't even imagine going through something like that. And then this book, Dark Shadows and Catastrophe, has a follow-up book, correct? This one here.
Correct.
So tell us a little bit about this one.
Yeah, so the continuation just kind of gets into Mesoamerican history and the dates where incidents are supposed to occur, specifically with Venus and the planet Earth. It's happened in the past. I believe I have a couple degrees in archaeology and anthropology and Mesoamerican culture, and I'm under the impression that a lot of the dating is incorrect. So 1022, 2036 actually is a very specific date for when things are supposed to occur based on the cultures and civilizations of the Mesoamericans. And I just kind of incorporated everything into that final end date.
That's, not far off, really.
Yeah, less than 11 years now.
Yeah, right. And so you mentioned that perhaps these dates are wrong. Let's hope so. Do you believe that? What do you think is going to occur 2036, if anything at all? I think
the 2012 date that a lot of people had thought was actually incorrect. I think they have the number system, the start date, wrong. So it's a little bit more. It wasn't 2012. I believe it's actually 2036.
Oh man! All right. So let's say, is this something we should be prepping for? Are you a prepper?
I used to be, and now I'm just to that age where I just don't care.
Okay,
we'll be the first. Yeah, we'll go stand out there and watch whatever happens. So
that's what I was thinking last night, looking at these skies. I'm like, well, if this is the end of the world, it sure is pretty.
Exactly.
I used to prep too, and then I came to that same conclusion. Boy, I don't want to have to be fighting and shooting people to survive. I don't know.
Right.
I guess we're all in it for the ride. My gosh. So you mentioned, I just want to stay on these shadow figures for a minute, because you mentioned you experienced these as a child. How old is your first memory of having like paranormal type of activity?
4 years old was the first time. Yes.
Okay. And I know for me personally, having experienced the same kind of shadow things when I was a kid, you have to process and try to understand what that was. What have you concluded as to what that was, if anything at all?
Yeah, there was physical interaction. So it wasn't just something that I was seeing. And I've been retired from special investigations and law enforcement for almost 10 years and doing this full time. And, being on places like Skinwalker Ranch or south of the border on Space Wolf Research and other locations, and seeing what I've seen now, I pretty much come to the conclusion that there's just other pockets of space, different frequencies and wavelengths, and just people say interdimensional or dimensions. And I think it's just, we all incorporate the same space and location, and there's just other things here with us at different levels that we just don't quite come into contact with all the time. And on that rare occasion, we cross over. And I think that's what occurs when, we see, and granted too, a lot of people just see things out of the corner of their eyes. It may be light, changes in the light, or you just process information differently at certain spots and locations. Right. But there are some things. I mean, I've seen, and I just can't quite get a grasp as to how I was able to see it. Or I mean, we've recorded things in northeastern Utah that I mean, I can't explain what I was standing there and watching, or what's occurred. And I find it all interesting. I'd love to someday figure it out, or be able to, go further. People always ask me, if you see a portal, what are you going to do? And I'm going to be one of those that walk through it. So.
Oh man. Yeah. Let's talk about that. I know in years past, we've had the discussion before on, what are some of the commonalities between some of these hot spots, especially, Skin Ranch, Rocky Mountain Ranch, Marley Woods, some of these locations. And we had mentioned and noticed that a lot of them really are highly energetic, right? And have water elements and certain geological elements. And I remember you telling me specifically, James, that you have seen kind of, or you were looking into at the time anyway, how these kind of come in waves or cycles. And you mentioned like solar flare cycles. Right now, boy, we're getting bombarded. Do you think when we get bombarded with these huge ejections from the sun, that activity increases, and we're going to be seeing more of the, the hot spots kind of being active? I mean, what have you followed through with any of that, and what are your conclusions on that?
Yeah, 100%. That's what's happening. So there's these locations. What people consider a portal is really an X point, and there's a lot more scientific data collection now by NASA in regards to that. And they're basically electron diffusion regions. So we have this magnetic and electromagnetic energy that's being sped up, turned into plasma. And it's becoming so highly energetic that it's opening portals between the sun and the earth. And they have 4 satellites that are above the planet that have been looking into this. And I personally believe that these are occurring inside the planet as well as outside in space. And from a lot of the readings that I've been collecting, especially with the magnetometer, we have these locations where they're highly energetic, meaning the electromagnetic energy is transient. It's bouncing up and down. And there always seems to be water flow underground. So I think somehow that water is energizing and altering the frequencies and the wavelength and creating these diffusion, these X points. And somehow, whatever it is, whether it's natural energy or something else, it's learned to manipulate it, or it's capable of entering in and out of those locations.
That's interesting. So when you say that, I agree with you. Whatever this is seems very transient in nature. I think the water element is really important as well. I just put up this picture here. What are you reading there?
Yeah, that's a TFR1 rod. So it operates on using crystals that have stored frequencies in them. And what I was doing right here is we were attempting to locate voids underground. Basically, when you're looking at these geomagnetic anomalies, this technology is created, including the magnetometers that I have, where when there's a lower microtesla reading, meaning that the material below is less than the medium, that's just showing that there's less material available, and it's picking up on that there's voids below ground. So the technology, we have it, we understand it. This one is just a fantastic machine. It's called the TFR1 rod, and it's capable of locating all types of material or minerals, voids from a distance. So it's really helped, especially with the cave systems that are running underneath and around Blind Frog Ranch.
Yeah, I was going to say, have you guys at Blind Frog, first of all, I just want to start talking about Blind Frog in the context of this. Now, I got to visit there one time only, but the energy to me, and I want your opinion on this, compared to Rocky Mountain Ranch, I have not been at Skinwalker Ranch, but I really wanted to feel the energy at Blind Frog, and it felt really good to me. And I didn't know how you, like, how does the energy there at Blind Frog feel to you? Does that shift as well? Is that transient overall? I mean,
yeah. So during the day, it's total opposite of what you feel and come into contact with at Skinwalker Ranch. But it's interesting because then at nighttime, it's different. It feels like there's something negative there. You're being watched. You get moody. Your mood switches and changes. You gain a little paranoia, and it's not all the time, but it's enough to realize that there's some type of shift. And we've had Dr. Jim Segala out there with his MUPAS systems that actually monitor all this different incoming data from magnetic, electromagnetic energy. It has monitors to monitor any type of change in the ground, from seismology, some type of shaking or anything. It monitors different types of energy shifts or changes. And he's actually shown that this shift happens a lot more at night. And when things start to appear in the sky, and I can't get too much into that because of non-disclosure agreements,
right.
Things really start picking up on the data points that are being collected up in the Uinta Mountains.
Wow, that's fascinating to me. And if there's voids and caverns or tunnels underground there, I tend to hypothesize that perhaps cryptids can, go underground or come up, or entities or spirits or whatever you want to call them. Do you have cryptids at Blind Frog? Have there ever been in reports of that, or?
The last book that I wrote is called The Giant in the Golden Underworld. And it kind of gets into that as to what's going on underground. And it fits into a lot of the history that I believe with the Aztec bringing up and caching a large amount of their treasure to be hidden away from the conquistadors back at a location that was actually origin for most of the Uto-Aztecan people. And yeah, so I believe that, in the past, these underground systems were had more connectivity than they do today. Over time, earthquakes, water, things of that nature have damaged, destroyed, or cut off one location from the other. But, who knows what's there? Last or 2 years ago, Ryan Skinner and myself were driving onto the ranch with the two video camera guys, and we were the first ones getting there in the morning. And we found what can only be explained as track from a very, very large serpent. The tracks were about 10 inches wide. And it makes you think, you have these cold-blooded serpents. So in order for them to live underground, then it requires a heat source, which could be geothermal. And, we had when Dwayne Ollinger originally dug into the ground, these blind frogs came up out of the hole he dug, meaning there are these ecosystems underground where animal life takes place, and it's just changed to where they haven't required, they haven't seen the light, so they didn't have eyes. So what else is capable of living underground? And
right.
We see people say Bigfoot, whether that be an interdimensional being or some type of other hominid. If it is a different hominid, what better way to hide than underground?
Yeah. Well, James, that freaks me out a little bit, this big serpent, because I'll tell you, so like I said, I got to visit Blind Frog one time. Are you guys doing tours out there?
No, they stopped doing the tours due to insurance reasons about 3 years ago. So you were probably one of the last to get to go on the tour.
Oh man, that's unfortunate, because that was such a cool thing. But here we are sitting in that pond, and what did you just tell me before we came on? That is, they found out is in that pond.
the serpent actually came out of the pond and then went across into the larger beaver pond on the creek. And remember that pond, there was no pond there until Dwayne hit the underground cavern system, and now the water came up, and it's constantly refreshing. So like we tried to drain it last year and it filled up within a few hours. So
so
there's
those
this
little bubbles that were floating around. First of all, it was freezing cold. I can't even believe we got in that water, just sitting there freezing to death. And because, but I was seeing these bubbles and it could have been a serpent. I'm so freaked out.
Could have been.
That's creepy. Oh my goodness. Now, as an archaeologist, I know that, you're out there looking for treasures and like that. Can you talk about what this is here? And then did you find this here on Blind Frog?
Yeah, so this is a Spanish half real from the early 1800s. And I found that probably about 200 feet away from where we set up the tent while we're filming. We have this large tent where, cast and crew usually hangs out at. So, and then after this find, we've actually found two more half reals and one full Spanish real, anywhere from, I believe, the early 1700s all the way up to about 1810. So
wow.
that just kind of.
Do you think there's buried treasure at Blind Frog that's yet to be discovered?
I think it's at or just north of the ranch. My personal belief is I think it's just north of, within a mile of where the ranch is, or at least the main cache site. Because remember, those cavern systems, they connect and some of them go on for miles.
Does Dwayne or anybody have to worry about security around that area? I mean, are there treasure hunters out there poking around, and do you worry about things like that?
We had issues with trespassers during filming that actually became part of the show, but it's all the time. We get the occasional hunter that just doesn't know they're on private property or somebody in an ATV, but there's definitely people will go out there and, find a 15-foot hole that's been dug, up against one of the walls, and they're not digging holes just for the hell of it. They're looking for something specific. And then we've found cameras that have, been hidden, that have been watching us before. So.
Wow. God. I mean, do you think that's like CIA, the government? I mean, who's watching and why?
I personally believe that it's people that are looking for the same thing that we are, more of the treasure. Now, I mean, I could be completely wrong. There are some interesting things occurring up in the sky. I mean, UAP show up here and there. But I think a majority of what we're seeing are people that are looking for what we're looking for, because they have journals or they have maps or additional information that we haven't made known to the public. And so they know where the main cache site is located as well, or close to or around.
Yeah. Wow. All right. So there's so much going on at Blind Frog, from UFOs to cryptids, big serpent snakes, to beautiful archaeological finds. And I want to just kind of bring these up and let you kind of talk about these as I bring up these pictures.
Sure. So the area where Blind Frog Ranch and Skinwalker Ranch are located is in northeastern Utah. And the culture that used to be there are known as the Vernal Style Fremont. And Fremont is just given that name from the individual that originally located a site and was able to verify that some of the petroglyphs and pictographs were related to the culture that was living at the sites. So we really don't quite know who they were. Now, I believe they were the ancient Puebloans that had just branched out, and the Uto-Aztecan that had branched out. And I think there were multiple cultures, not just single individuals. But They created a lot of petroglyphs and pictographs all around Blind Frog Ranch, just due to the rock that was available. Apparently there were some very religious, spiritual sites that were so important, whether that be because of the energy that's available there, or it having been an ancient homeland. The areas are important, and that's where the rock art ends up being placed. And these sites are all around both of the ranches. And some of what you're looking at, these anthropomorphic and zoomorphic features, a lot of them don't make sense. And you'll talk to the Zuni or the Hopi or the Pueblo, the Ute or the Timpanogos, and it goes back to a lot of what we consider folklore or mythology, but for them is actual history on other beings like the ant people that saved humanity and brought them up into the fifth world. And the more that I've researched the location, the more that I believe that the Uinta Mountains is actually an origin site for the Great Deluge. It was one of these locations where people were actually able to survive this catastrophic event. And you have to remember that it's positioned very well because the Wasatch Front is north-south running mountains, and then the Uintas are east-west. So it would have been a great break for a major catastrophe, especially if it was water. So,
how do you think that these native tribes and people knew that these areas were sacred and highly energetic? And I mean, did they have certain gifts that we've sort of lost through the decades, through the years? I mean, it always amazes me that there's so many of these sacred sites, and I feel like we're just like, we don't care where we build things.
Sure. Yeah, no, I think you're 100% correct. I believe that we've lost natural abilities to alter frequency and wavelength. And the Native Americans have always done that through fasting, a altering of their thought, and then a lot of different instruments like the drums and different reed instruments that can alter what's occurring around you. And then also remember too, that I think these supernatural and religious sites were always paranormal. So what we see or what occurs now has always been occurring, and it's always drawn humanity and human beings to that location. They consider it sacred. We consider it something that we need to prove, that science can't right now. But I think it's the same high strangeness that's always been occurring.
Yeah, I agree with that. So what am I looking at here? And there are some really interesting, like, the second person to the right, that thing that's coming up from his foot. I wonder what that is. I mean, some of these, how interesting. But what are we looking at here?
So this is labeled the Three Kings. It's at Dry Fork Canyon, which is just above Vernal, Utah. And these are anthropomorphic features. A lot of people believe they may be medicine men or represent other beings like star people. But what I believe is that center individual that has what's the crown on his head is Cuitlahuac, who was the brother of Moctezuma. And I believe that he brought the treasure up here because it was an origin site and they knew it would be protected by the Uto-Aztecans that are still in the area, which are the Shoshone and the Paiute and the Ute. And I've done years of history in Mexico City, and the headdress, the tunic that the individual is wearing, the shield, all matches Cuitlahuac's barrio that he was in charge of during the reign of his brother Moctezuma. And Cuitlahuac became the 10th Tlatoani, who was the emperor of the Mexica, the Aztec. So when Cortez was kicked out, it was actually Cuitlahuac who kicked Cortez and the conquistadors out, because Moctezuma had been killed that night. And they all believe that Cuitlahuac died of smallpox. But what's interesting are there are 8 different dates for his death. And there's only 1 or 2 sentences in all the journals of the conquistadors mentioning him. So I think it was staged. I think they recovered all the treasure that had fallen to Lake Texcoco because the conquistadors were weighted down with all the gold and silver, and they were too greedy to let it go. So they fell off the causeways and drowned. Cuitlahuac and his warriors dredged it, collected all the treasure. They took the treasure that was hidden from Cortez, and it went north and went to several different sites, with Dry Fork Canyon and Blind Frog Ranch being on Crow Creek. Right at that site location, I think, is the main cache site for the treasure. So this was so important that they put all this on top of old petroglyphs and pictographs. And when you go to the museum in Mexico City, the 2 anthropomorphic features on the left actually look like their special forces, their jaguar warriors, and the costumes that are in the Museum of Anthropology actually are identical to what we're looking at right now.
Right. I mean, it's fascinating. The spirals are really interesting to me. What do you think the spirals represented? And it's interesting. Some of them have 4 fingers. Some of them have like the one there to the right of the king looks very ET, like very.
Sure. Yeah. The in the codices, which were the books that were written by the Aztec, only one individual was allowed to represent Quetzalcoatl. And Quetzalcoatl a lot of times was represented by this duality of spirals for creator of the universe and all that. And the only individual that was allowed to represent Quetzalcoatl in any type of religious ceremony was the king, the emperor. So what better way to show that it was Cuitlahuac than to have the 2 spirals on each side of him, showing that how important this individual was to be featured in this location on this rock art.
Wow. What would happen to somebody if they found the treasure? I mean, does the government take it? How does ownership even work? Like, I worry about, like, if you find a treasure, people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yep.
If Dwayne finds something, don't tell anybody.
Yeah. If we all just suddenly disappear and you never hear from us again,
we'll know. And we see pictures of you on social media, like in Tahiti or something on a beach.
No, I'll take all that off. I'll be off social media.
Yeah, that's true. You have to hide, go into hiding. Okay. I kind of wanted to talk to you a little bit about some of these rock formations that, on the show. And I admit I haven't seen every episode. I need to catch up. For a while, I didn't even have the cable TV to do it, but I need to catch up. And the few I did see, I was seeing these guys. I find some really interesting rock formations. So where's that little picture of the map I had here? This here, it's a Turtle Rock, Pointed Rock, and then there was this really interesting bear head, or to me, I don't know, it kind of looks like a wolf or a coyote. Could be a bear. Can you talk about some of these discoveries they're making there at Blind Frog and what they might mean?
Sure. And then the first thing I want to say is, like, that little map that showed, like, in how it was
this
advancing. Yes. Mm-hmm. We never put exactly where things are because we don't want you to know it's never going to be perfect due to the fact that we're searching for this treasure. So it's going to be a little bit off on purpose. And I've never seen the Turtle Rock or the bear in person. I haven't been up. It's just slightly up north of the ranch. So, but what the Turtle Rock would symbolize was, in the day, whether they were the Spaniards or the Mexicans that followed or the Mormons, these miners and these treasure hunters, in order to remember, where they had cached something or where a mine was, one of the ways of doing that was to take a natural formation and manipulate it more to turn it into what looked like a turtle.
Oh.
And it was for them to, because remember, there's no Google Earth back then.
Right.
And usually you would just go to the top of a hillside and look over and try to find these features, these natural features, whether it was a tree that you lopped off the top or you formed this turtle head on this rock pointing into the direction to know where something was, or if somebody was coming up to collect the cache after you've mined and smelted it and turned it into an ore that can now be transferred. They would locate those cache sites and then take them back down by burro trains or llama trains back to Mexico. And if the cache site was emptied, they would lop the head off of the turtle, and that meant that the cache is gone. But it could have meant anything to individuals. They could have done it backwards. It could have had different meaning, but that's just an overall belief as to what the turtle symbol stood for. The bear symbol usually meant that there was a cave or a mine entrance at that site. And again, it looked like Chad and Josh had found a cave that had been filled in with rocks just below the bear head here that you're looking at.
Right. And are they going to go into that and try to,
they were already in there.
Oh, they were. What did they discover?
Yes. There was a rock in there that had some carvings on it that was either some type of numeric system, or some of the group thought that it could have been that they were actually placing the ingots on top of it and outlining it so that they could kind of keep like a tally of what they had. So,
okay.
I mean, either could have been right, both could have been wrong in what it represented.
Wow, there's so much more left to discover there. I apologize for the unstable connection. We're getting hit by a lot of energy. Maybe that's something to do with it. I don't know, but we kind of froze there for a minute. So hopefully it came through on the other side. My goodness. So you name it, it happens at Blind Frog Ranch. From do you guys ever see orbs there as well? UFO sightings, those kind of things. What's like the most, I don't know, shocking, surprising thing that's happened out there on Blind Frog for you?
Well, for me, I really think it would be the serpent. I think that was just something I never expected. A lot of people are always like, remember, and this, that, I mean, TV exaggerates a lot because they're selling commercial time.
Yeah.
But I was one of the first 4 people on that ranch that day. I know what I saw. We looked for we thought, oh, it's a beaver, that was dragging its tail. But we went, we found one of the beavers. We videotaped it. You could see its paws along with its track, and it kept lifting the tail, so it was never dragging it for too long. We looked at other animals. We looked at if it could have been something dragging on one of the vehicles as we left for the night. So we went back and checked all the vehicles once they got there. This was a serpent. I mean, I have seen snakes. Did
it do this, the track?
Yeah, exactly. That was it. It was a snakes moving back and forth. I live here in Arizona. I mean, I've seen a million different types of snakes in the desert, even at my house. And that's what you see. But this thing was at least 9 or 10 inches wide. I mean, it was a big serpent. And it's just hard, and you got to think, if it's living underground, it's got to have a geothermal source, because sometimes it's 12 below zero at the ranch in January and February.
Right.
So what better way to survive than underground in these ecosystems that we know exist? I mean, I've spent a considerable amount of time underground at the ranch and around it, and we run into a lot of interesting things when we're down there.
Wow. Let's talk about the drilling a little bit here. And here you are.
Core sampling.
Core sampling. And what are some of your discoveries there?
Yeah. So, I mean, we've found some weird crap in some of them, like wiring sometimes, like electrical wiring, just out in the middle
Really?
of nowhere. Yeah. You know, and it makes you think if there's devices that are in the ground. And I know the USGS puts a lot of seismometers in the ground to monitor activity. So maybe we just drilled into an old seismometer, or who knows if somebody put something else in the ground to monitor us, or something other than, you know, what we're aware of. I think that's the weirdest thing I've seen in the core samples was wiring.
Wiring? Yeah, that reminds me a
Wiring.
little bit of Jeff McBurney, who owns the Mount Wilson Ranch there in Nevada, outside of Area 51. You know, he was pulling up these old, like, ornate, like, lamppost kind of things made
Right.
out of
I've seen
concrete
them.
with,
Yeah.
yeah, with the big thick wires. That's sort of what that reminds me of. I mean, do you think there could have been like a underground city or anything like that out there
I don't
in that
know. I mean,
area?
we've drilled into concrete that shouldn't exist. It's just out in the middle of nowhere. There's never been a building, and then you hit concrete, and you're like, and it's an old concrete. So I mean, and remember that there were a lot of miners out there, so they could have tried to hide and cover up the entrance, the portals into the mine shafts. So it's just bizarre. Some of the stuff that come up in the core samples.
Wow, that's amazing to me. Yeah, I didn't realize that you were digging up stuff like that. Oh, like, okay, hold on. We saw that picture. I'm just kind of going through here. I think there was a couple more we wanted to share. This one right here. Let's talk about this and what this is and why this might be important.
Well, those are in Germany, correct? That was
Yes.
the German, those bells that supposedly would be able to go in and out of time and in and out of space.
Do you think there might be something at Blind Frog, like hidden underground or something like that? Or,
well, here's what's interesting is at Dinosaur National Monument at Cub Creek site, there is a petroglyph of an abstract feature. And Katie, you know who Steve Mera is, right? From the UK. So I put that up on Facebook one day. I said, this is so interesting because it appears to have uplift. It appears to be going up into space based upon the other abstract features that look like this cosmology. And it seems to be sending out either some type of signals or electrical energy. And Steve saw that. And the next day he sent me a picture of what was caught on video above London. And they look identical.
Whoa.
The petroglyph and this object above London look identical. And then the object above London looks very similar to those bell ships that the Nazis supposedly were experimenting with.
The Glock, I think I'm saying that right. Yeah. Wow. That is amazing. So what do you think, like, if the truth of what is really going on in some of these high strangest locations, and whatever that truth may or may not be, I don't know, how would it affect the overall, like, UFO community?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think a lot of people have this idea of what they want to see, what they want the UAP to be. And from what I've seen in and around Skinwalker Ranch, it's nothing like what we visualize it being. And I think at some point the USGS put out a monitoring station that was 30 miles in diameter on the Uinta Basin. And I've for years been collecting this data that was not stored anywhere near the Uinta Basin. It was stored at several Air Force bases in California and New Mexico, of all places. And the data looks to be, they said that they were monitoring for nuclear underground testing from our enemies, China, Russia. But when you look at the data points, they were more interested in the localized explosions or features setting off the seismometers in the ground locally. And that data from the USGS in the early 60s was later collected and taken by NASA and the Central Intelligence Agency in 1971 and 72. And one of the data collections was for an unknown event. They didn't have it classified. They just didn't even talk about it. So that there was no classification in case anybody ever wanted to put a FOIA. Right. It doesn't exist. And I think what it was that caught my attention was, I think they were either monitoring while they were building an underground base of sorts so that they would know if something was too noisy or too out of hand where others could detect it, or they were searching for something that was underground in the Uinta Basin and Uinta Mountains. And NASA later in the 80s puts a site out there that they have these portable telescopes. But it's weird because not all the data was for collection of what they were seeing up in space. It still continued to be also what was there at the Uinta Basin locally. And ARPA was involved back in the 60s. I was actually able to locate photos of the Air Force, their mobile stations out there. And this is on McCoy Flats out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Very close to Skinwalker Ranch, very close to Blind Frog Ranch. And it's also in this area that we know as UFO Alley that starts all the way down in Roswell, New Mexico, and goes at this 305-degree heading right past, where the nuclear bomb was created, sites for the Hopi and Zuni, where all this UAP is constantly seen, and then directly right over the McCoy Flats NASA site, which is about 15 miles east of Skinwalker Ranch and about 15 miles south of Blind Frog Ranch.
That information, James, is so fascinating to me. And I've often wondered, in the Elbert County, and we need to get you out here too, to do some digging around, because right in Elbert County by the Rocky Mountain Ranch and the Black Forest and all that, is a Palmer Divide. So there's a lot of geological, and there's supposed to be petroglyphs and things like that I have not located. I would love to get a team out there to try to find these things and have you poke around in some of these caves and tunnels. But even the Dulce area, the Dulce base, you mentioned the Trinity and Socorro and that whole Roswell Alley. But some of these like basins, the Uinta Basin, and they're kind of similar. And even in the San Luis Valley with Mount Blanca, we hear of orbs and lights going in and out, and we know NASA has done a lot of work in the valley. And I'm wondering if you said it very well. Is it, do we have bases and things that are underground, or are they searching for perhaps ant people or somebody else after all, or is it a combination of both? What do you think's going on? I mean, how much is our government hiding, and could they be hiding things out there in the Uinta Basin in that area? Have you seen any evidence of that, of any blacked out helicopters or government secrets?
So it's interesting. So, I was supposed to go to Colorado MUFON this last weekend, and I was extremely sick. I'm still getting over that. And it wouldn't have mattered anyways, because all the flights ended up being canceled. Right. So I couldn't have gotten there anyway. But I had put together what's out at McCoy Flats. There are buildings underground that have been left out there, wires that are coming up out of the ground everywhere.
Where is that located, in McCoy Flats?
It's about a mile outside of Vernal, just east of Vernal, 1 mile away. And there is this object underground that my magnetometer located, and it's about 8 feet in diameter, made of this metal. And I have this video where I'm tapping on it, and it seems like it's echoing throughout the entire underground area out in the middle of nowhere. And the magnetometer makes it look like it's this round, I hate to say it, but it looks like the TV show Stargate, just underground. So who knows what it is? I mean, it could be just something I'm not familiar with, some sort of wiring system, but there's stuff everywhere that was left there.
Makes you wonder. Yeah.
It
Wow.
makes you wonder. I mean, because that site is just in the middle of nowhere. People have no idea what they're on top of
Right.
when they're bike riding or motorcycle riding or ATV riding, and
Yeah.
you would never know it except for the fact that, like I said, I located all this documentation at Air Force bases outside of Utah. That all the data apparently matches a lot of what's occurring in California and New Mexico and in Montana. So they have a lot of similarities, especially with earthquakes that are occurring at the Uinta Basin. Very unique, anomalous earthquakes that only take place in places like Tibet, Mongolia, and in northeastern Utah and Wyoming because of the Kraken formation, the older formation layers there. So, and that would be a 3-hour discussion about what that is, but
Yeah, I was gonna
it's
say that.
unique areas that potentially are creating this massive amount of energy that's not in the crust, it's in the upper mantle, meaning it's very deep. The last earthquake was in September and it was 42.5 miles down, which shouldn't be occurring. It should be in the crust, not the upper mantle. And the energy is transferring into the earth, not upward. Yet people say they felt it or they heard it, which shouldn't have occurred. So it goes along with a lot of unique things that are occurring that they call the Uinta rumble or the rumble of the mountains. And
yeah, I was going to say that because out here at Rocky Mountain Ranch, there's, the reports of the hum or the Taos hum in New Mexico. And so you have similar kind of sounds coming out of the Uinta Basin as well?
Correct.
Wow. Okay. And I discovered, at least in the San Luis Valley, in really researching that whole snippy, that over the Great Sand Dunes, if the wind hits the sand dunes a certain way, it'll sound like singing or humming. And so I know, like, geological features of some of these locations can cause strange noises. Yeah.
Right.
It's not all UFOs, but maybe some are. I don't know. Have you been to Mount Wilson Ranch, the Shaman Cave up there?
I've been to Mount Wilson Ranch. I did not go to the Shaman Cave.
Okay, when you kick that cave too, it sounds hollow. It just reminds me of what you were talking about. And I remember Jeff was saying he was standing in the corner of that cave, and it sounded like his whole body was vibrating as if there's like a train or something running underground. So I'm wondering, what do you think? Can some of these locations be connected underground in ways like that?
Well, at Mount Wilson, there was supposedly, when you look at the mountaintop, it's been sheared off completely. And it looks like the US government had done that in order to put an underground train system that was carrying the nuclear bombs so that the Russians and the Chinese could never get an exact target location on them. And it was underground, constantly moving in that area. So they may still be operating that, and he may very well be feeling and hearing exactly that, because he said, I remember him saying it felt and sounded like a train. Well, that's because it was there before. So why can it not still be?
Yeah, it makes sense. And where his location too, where he is by Area 51 and that. Man, this hour flew by, and I so appreciate you. I know you're still not feeling 100%. So I hope you're feeling better. And I really appreciate you taking the time. But really quickly, before we run out of time, I wanted to share, this is your newest book, The Giant and the Golden Underworld. It looks fantastic. And I hope that people will go to your Amazon. I think we have a link we can put up for your Amazon. These are some older books you did, which are so much fun. The UFO and an alien. Let's see. And then you have Bigfoot at Skinwalker Ranch. So going off on the cryptids there.
Right.
The shapeshifter scare, talking about our shapeshifters. And this one you mentioned.
Right.
With your encounter. And that's book 2 of that one. This one, come back. Okay. And we only have a minute left. But can you quickly tell us what this one's about? This is intriguing for me.
Sure. So I used to also be the district loss prevention manager for Macy's. And the loss prevention people would have a lot of paranormal stories at their stores, especially the older ones. And even when they tore down part of the walls in the Ventura store, they found old bomb shelters that had been covered up from the 60s and all that. And things started happening when they broke open the walls and people started seeing things started moving. So I incorporated a lot of that into this fictional novel. So a lot of it was from real life stories that came from
I'm getting me a copy of that for sure. And next time I see you, you're going to sign it. And guys, please check out James's YouTube channel. It looks like he has so much great content, and you can kind of go on investigations with him there at Blind Frog. So be sure to check out that as well. James, thank you again so much for being here. And oh gosh, a screen just popped up on me. Why?
Oh, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, I had to move that. All right. But thank you for being here. Thank you guys for being here as well. And next week we have on the Trifecta, we have Ryan Wood will be joining us. So I hope you can join us for that. And we'll be talking about UFO decks and ETs and AI and things like that. But again, thanks for being here tonight. And James, thank you. And I hope you get to feeling better. And until next time, we hope to have you back on. Okay. Thanks, guys. Good night.